According to UrbanDictionary.com, the definition of a battle vest or battle jacket is a denim or leather jacket worn by metalheads to show their devotion to the best metal genre on Earth. While I agree with this definition, I must admit there are multiple kinds of battle jackets and lots of things you can make patches for, so today I'm going to be showing you a few of the processes that I've tried out to make my own patches. Now, purchasing band patches is highly encouraged, especially if you're like at a show and can get them directly from a merch booth. You should be supporting all of your favorite bands as much as you can because it's hard out there for musicians right now. But sometimes you can't find a patch for a particular band, or you want to make patches for something else altogether. So today I'm going to show you a few different techniques that I've tried over the years. When it comes to my battle vest, about half of these are handmade. I tend to let the ends get frayed because I like that look. From far away, they look like normal patches. You can tell which ones are real because they've got that embroidered edge that keeps them together. Most patches go for like $5 to $10, so I've probably spent $150 on patches so far, and if all of these had been purchased, this would be like a $400 jacket. But moving on to the vest we're actually going to be working on today, this is what I call my bean vest. It's all coffee roasters, which is really random, but one of my old hobbies was going around and trying different coffee roasters. I'd like to wear this vest more, but it's kind of bare looking, so we're going to work on it. I would like to introduce my quality control officer. They make sure everything is, up to OSHA standards, so just don't mind them. They'll be present throughout the entire video. Here's our before when we had like a half dozen patches on here, and we're going to end up making another half dozen or so and filling out this vest a little bit. So thank you for being here today. My name is Mads. This is my channel where I make stuff. I'm going to show you the process. I am using paint. You can go ahead and judge me. I have access to better programs, but it's just, this opens quickly and it's just less frustrating for me. So I use magical Google to go and find all kinds of PNG files of different coffee places or roasters or stuff like that, and put them all into one image document so that I can print it all out, try to save some paper, and use that as a reference to make these as quickly and accurately as possible. Going for generally more simple logos just so it's easier. I take them over to my light board. If you don't have a light board, you can get one relatively cheaply online, or you can use a well-lit window and some tape. I'm also using this Mylar stencil stuff for like professionals. I needed a large size for another project I made a long time ago, and these are just some leftover pieces, but you can get more affordable stencil material if you choose to make stencils. This is not my number one suggestion, but I'm going to show you this first just in case you'd like to mass produce multiple stencils. So it's pretty straightforward. Again, using a light table, I'm going to grab a pen and just trace over an image. If there are any hollow points on the inside, just keep that in mind that it needs to be connected somehow to the rest of the stencil, otherwise you're just going to have a hole there. I just kind of made like an inside gap instead of an entire hole. And in the past I would go in with paint and like fill in those gaps, but this time I'm just kind of honestly rushing through it so I can just show you the process. Make sure to grab some kind of a cutting board to use as your surface, because otherwise you're going to mess up your light table. Not that I know from experience. And also, don't paint on top of your cutting board, because then you'll mess up your cutting board. Not that I know from experience. Also, safety first, third, whatever. It's one of the priorities. Try to use the sharpest X-Acto knife you can, and follow that old Boy Scout expression, cut your buddy, not your body. Does anybody say that anymore? I was taught how to whittle when I was a kid, and I just remember a lot of adults saying that. Cut your buddy, not your body. So cut away from yourself, never cut towards yourself, because accidents will happen, and sharp things are sharp. So I'm going to move on to the attachment. I use this random adhesive that I happen to have because I don't want to spend any money. But if you're going to be buying material for this, there's actual like spray stencil adhesive that will be less gunky. The material that I'm painting on top of is an old dress that I cut up, but if you're gonna buy material, I'd get like a thinnish canvas that'll last better. Another technique that you can use other than making a stencil is gonna be an acrylic pen. Today I decided to do an experiment with the Sharpie oil-based pens that say they work on all surfaces. And then I'm gonna cut out all my references and attach them to the bottom of my material. I'm going to personally use a white color pencil because it's what I have. You could use chalk, you could use a lot of different things. And I also got these embroidery hoops in order to make the material as taut as possible. We'll talk about it a little bit more in the future, but it's better if you have a larger sheet of material. Being that my scraps are kind of small, we have some problems doing it this way. It's also very hard to see on camera, but because of how thin this material is, I was actually able to see through it. Just in case you can't see through the material, you can always make a grid on your reference as well as on your fabric, and then use that to like hand draw it on. It'll take a little bit longer. Now, at this point, I noticed the problem with using my hoop. Because I couldn't get it taut in a vertical and only a horizontal, everything was kind of twisted. So I just kind of eyeballed it and sketched over it a little bit more to clean it up. And then after that, I stopped using the embroidery hoop. But again, if you have a large enough piece of material, use the embroidery hoop, or use this technique where you just use some painter's tape and kind of attach everything down. Now I'm just getting my oil pens ready and seeing how those go down. At first, it looks like it's about the same as an acrylic pen, but acrylic is made of a plastic polymer that's gonna sit on top of the material, whereas an oil pen gets absorbed into the fabric. It means it'll be a little more flexible, so if you're okay with this like faded gray look, you can like layer it on there and do some cool things, but it is nowhere near as legible as actual acrylic paint on top of your project. Another issue is that I did multiple layers. I let this dry for a couple hours and then I came back to do it again, and I did not feel like the oil was getting any more visible with multiple layers, whereas the acrylic definitely does. Again, because the acrylic sits on top of the material, whereas the oil just seeps right into it. You can do some cool stuff, but you know, it's just something to keep in mind. I think if you only use that technique, it could be a really cool aesthetic. Another option is to go in and hand paint over everything. I have done this many times, especially because I use secondhand materials that have been washed multiple times and have like fluff on the top surface. Like maybe I should shave down the fabric, but I end up painting like the loose bits of material on top as well. And it's really hard to get those like tiny details in there. So it's an option. It looks fine from, 10 feet away, but up close, it is not as sharp as your other options. From this angle, you can kind of see the difference in the different techniques. I would basically pick based off of how detailed of a patch you want to make. If you're doing like a pile of sticks metal logo, getting a really fine acrylic pen might be the way to go. But if you're doing like a big simple design like just a skull or a piece of art, hand painting it on there might work just fine. What I tend to do is go back and forth with the painted designs. I tried to touch it up with a pen here, but very often in the past I've just grabbed some black paint and I go in and try to clean up any of those edges or bring down those fluffy bits that accidentally got paint on them. This ends up taking a lot of time though. I literally have gone back and forth 4 or 5 times on certain patches. So it takes a little bit of practice, but it might be one of the cleaner ways to make a patch. Now, I am using out of the tube acrylic paint. The difference between acrylic paint and actual fabric paint is mostly the consistency. If you're going to be painting like a t-shirt or jeans, you might want to use actual fabric paint because of the amount of washing that it's going to get and the amount of wear and tear. Since these patches go on top of a battle vest, they sit a little more flat, so it doesn't matter if they're a little bit more stiff. But the acrylic pen is going to work best for, I don't know, like a t-shirt or something like that. So once we've got all those dried and everything, we're going to cut them up and start attaching them down. But of course the professional has to come in and make sure everything's good. Right now she's asking me why I don't throw my trash away as I go. I don't have a good answer for her, but she has a point there. Fresh off the presses, we have 7 brand new patches. Hooray, good job, self. I had no idea I was gonna make this many. I just printed out a whole bunch of references to see what would happen, so that's cool. I've been way more productive this week than I anticipated. I go and I start pinning them down with just like straight pins. If you have a cat like me, please use safety pins. It's not a problem this time around, but it's a little bit stressful. I kind of wish I had just used safety pins like I typically would, but you know, pin them down when they're on a flat surface. That is another mistake that I made on this project, was kind of being loosey-goosey with my pinning. Pin thoroughly. I kind of only put down 2 per patch because I don't care, but if you pin down all 4 corners, it'll sit a lot flatter and look a lot nicer. In the past, I typically used a sewing machine to just slap them down real quick. I kind of ruined my sewing machine with these other patches. I have this, like, TIE Fighter jacket, and so I bought Disney Star Wars patches, and they had gunk on the underside. Those patches never stay. I don't understand why they sell patches with gunk on them. And all the gunk got into my sewing machine and absolutely ruined it. So I haven't sewn in, like, years because of how frustrated I was about that. And just recently I got back into hand sewing because I forgot how relaxing it is. It's also way, way nicer on my neck and shoulders to, like, hand sew stuff that's in my lap instead of, like, hunching over a machine that's down way too low. Speaking of that cat, every time I am sewing or doing something with my hands, she gets very envious and is like, "You could be petting me. Why are you petting that inanimate object?" Sometimes, like, animals will do this when you're on your phone too long. They're like, "Stop scrolling. Scritch me. Priorities, human." And they're totally right, 100% right. There's a new Devin Townsend song. If you've listened to Power Nerd, he's talking about petting the cat. It's so excellent. My cute and furry hell fury, petting the cat, meow. Whoa, yeah, petting the cat, hey, petting the cat, hey. Please go listen to Devin Townsend, Power Nerd. That is my favorite artist. And I swear, every time I'm depressed, like, I don't listen to all of Devin Townsend's music, but sometimes he just writes music specifically for my depression and to save my life. This cat and Devin Townsend keep me alive, I swear. Coffee vest. So, I hope you like my pincushion that I made when I was 15. It's a voodoo doll, because I'm a normal, healthy human being who has a voodoo doll pincushion. I kept sewing until, like, the wee hours in the morning, and the cat made me go to bed. She just sat on my chair and is like, "No more. It's time to go cuddle. Can't do this anymore." So I waited till the next day to finish up this project. I probably spent about 6 hours, maybe 8 hours altogether hand sewing, which isn't too bad, but I'm pretty proficient at it. Maybe I should talk to you about sewing, in case you're not familiar with it. Because I don't finish the edges of my patches, I go in maybe like 1/4 of an inch and then all the way out to the edge to try to contain any frayed edges as it ages. You could also buy something called Liquid Stitch and kind of, like, seal the edges of your patches if you so desired. A professional would probably fold those in, something like that. I, once again, do not care. I just want my vest to look cooler. So this is just a 2-day project that we just knock out real quick. The only thing I really care about is, like, getting the corner down. So once I get to the very edge, I just go all the way out to that, like, 45-degree angle and pin it all the way down. Get up to, use the restroom once in a while and don't have the heart to move the cat. So instead I just torment her. Luckily she's very patient. So she decided to model for a potential thumbnail. Very good cat, 11 out of 10. I do suggest torties. Torties are the best cats. I really don't mind her getting in the way of this whole project. It's so cute, like, editing the video. I didn't even, like, internalize how much time she spent on my lap, but she just really wanted to be part of this project, which I love. The project might have come across a little bit neater. I might have had everything a little bit more flush if she hadn't been there, but now her fur is going to be, embedded in the project, and it is therefore blessed. So we've just got 2 more patches to do. I choose to have some of these overlapping because I'm a crusty edgelord like that. Yeah, I wish I had a slightly better close-ups of the sewing process so I could kind of tell you how to do that a little bit more, but there's lots of good tutorials online on how to do hand stitching. It is pretty self-evident what you want to be doing outside of petting the cat. Yeah, petting the cat, hey, petting the cat, hey. Petting the cat. If your battle vest is, like, on thicker canvas or actual leather, you're gonna probably want some kind of, if it's leather, like an awl to pierce a hole through the leather, or a thimble to protect your finger as you're pushing it through thicker material. Luckily, this is on just secondhand flannel, so it was no problem at all. I'm making this look like butter. Also because I have really good sewing needles. I have like my grandmother's old sewing needles. They don't make sewing needles like they used to. It's very exciting stuff. I'm gonna talk about my bean vest now and why I'm working on it, because you made it all the way towards the end of the video. Congratulations. So I did something very unpunk. I got sober a few months ago. My old hobby was playing pinball at like breweries. Like, I have an appreciation for craft beer, and I am now 2.5 months alcohol and smoke free. And so I'm gonna get back into coffee. Coffee is the one vice I'm gonna be allowed to have. So I'm gonna try to wear this more regularly. It's appropriate for all seasons. I've been trying to wear my actual battle vest out and about, and I feel like I scare people. Like, you're allowed to be spooky in public, but it's better to be spooky in public with like a crew. When you're an introvert and it's just you look really weird being spooky out by yourself, and people are suspicious. So I don't know. This is probably a little bit more approachable. I want people to approach me about my battle vest and to make friends who have similar music tastes, but you know, I can just look punk rock now. So here's a series of the patches I've made. You can see on that particular patch some of the gunk from my stencil material, which is why I highly suggest using actual stencil adhesive and not whatever spray glue you have. Here's our really rough stencil that we made, but it all looks cool from far away. It's got a very DIY handmade aesthetic to it, so I really like it. A lot of these are coffee roasters that I've gone and visited in person. At first, this was just going to be exclusively coffee roasters, but I've decided to just put things like Rad Coffee and Made Coffee, which are just little coffee places. I already have a Ziltoid patch on there, which, again, Devin Townsend, if you're familiar with Ziltoid, good, and if you're not, please educate yourself. And bring me your finest bean! Anyways, so thank you so much for checking out this video. I hope this inspired you to make your own bean vest, battle vest, queer vest, whatever you want. I will see you guys in the next one.